sneaker resolutions. I've made some for 2024, and I have some that I think would be great for you to know. This time on Fire Footwear. Welcome back to Fire Footwear, everybody. As always, this is your host, Matt Frates, and I want to welcome everybody who is new to this podcast or new to this YouTube channel. No matter how it is that you found us, I just want to thank you, new or old. It means a lot to me that you are here and that you support this channel. Happy New Year, everybody. 2024 is here, and usually when we turn over the new year, many of us do something that is pretty commonplace amongst humanity. We make New Year's resolutions, and New Year's resolutions tend to be something that we want to change about ourselves. Usually it's a behavior that we want to change. For many people, it's I want to get in shape or I want to ride a bike, something like that. It's usually something that people consider life-changing. And I thought to myself, why do we only have to do it with our personal lives? Why can't we do it in sneakers? Because I think when we look at the behaviors of sneaker culture in general, and that includes myself, there are many things that we can change about our behavior. And so I took the time recently to focus on some things that I wanted to share with you. So what I have done here is come up with 6 sneaker resolutions that I think that you should know about, that I think could be useful for you. So we're going to get into those because I want people at the end of this episode to be thinking about themselves within sneakers just a little bit differently. We all know that one affliction that we all suffer from in sneakers is that we're constantly looking toward the next release. I think that unfortunately today there are so many sneaker releases, we generally tend to forget about enjoying the ones that we have just had. Whenever one pickup comes in, it seems like we're always looking to the next one. And maybe that's a microcosm for life. Maybe we're always looking to the next event, always looking to the next meeting, whatever it is. We're rushing to get to the next place. And so my first resolution for you that I'm going to try and do this year is to buy less and enjoy more. What I mean by that is that don't think of every weekend as an opportunity to cop sneakers. Think about the sneakers that you want over the course of the year and try and only buy the ones that you know that you're really going to enjoy. I think the enjoyment of sneakers has somewhat waned a little bit because I think we have been conditioned to have these collections that are so large and so massive that many people don't wear even a fraction of what is in their closet. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't collect sneakers. Go ahead and do that if you want. But I'm saying is don't necessarily feel like you have to buy every single one that is coming out every single weekend, that your collection has to rival somebody else's. Maybe buy a little bit less and enjoy the ones that you get. Think of it this way. If you only buy 6 sneakers throughout the entirety of 2024 and you wear all 6 of those, imagine how much enjoyment you're going to get out of it. Long gone are the days that shoes are going to resell. And hell, even if you get a hyped pair, wear it. That's the beauty of sneakers. Wear your shoes. And so I think a good resolution is to buy less and enjoy more. And I think what you will find is that you will make a connection to sneakers once again, or maybe rekindle the kind of love that you had way back in the day when you first got into it. Another resolution that I think is important that is kind of linked to the last one is to invest. And how do you invest in sneakers? Well, like I said, there's an investment made every single time we purchase a sneaker. And every single weekend, there is an investment opportunity. Many times when we go out for a sneaker, we don't get it. Now, availability is very, very high these days, but think about it in terms of the hype releases. The ones that you know lots of people are going to go for, and the ones that you know are going to be very, very difficult to get. You were willing to put $200, $250, maybe even more than that, maybe $300 out on the table so that you could get the shoe that you want. And when you didn't get it, what did you then do with that money? I think a great step in 2024 would be to take the money that you would have spent on a shoe that you didn't end up getting and putting it towards some kind of an investment. To me, the smart investment would be to invest in Nike or Reebok or Adidas, whatever company is made public. Because if you invest in that company, you're going to grow with them. Many people forget that sneaker companies don't care about us the way that we think that they do. What they care about is our wallet, and what they care about is whether we're spending our money on them. And what better way to stick it to them by spending our money on them by buying their stocks. And imagine over the course of the year how many sneakers you lose out on and how many investments that you make. By the end of the year, you could find yourself in a really good financial position, and there's nothing wrong with that. We should all strive to be in a better financial position because I think a lot of times we forget about our responsibilities when we're buying sneakers. Not everybody does it, but I think a lot of people forget what they have to deal with, and then when that pair of shoes comes in and that bill comes due, they're freaking out. So now, put yourself in a better place. Save some of that money, invest some of that money, and it will make the L's that we take over the course of the year a lot more easy to handle. This next one I think is super, super important, and it does kind of relate to this podcast, but I think supporting local creators is extremely important. Now, that doesn't necessarily just mean content creators. I think that it also extends to creators in the fashion world and just about anything. I would venture a guess that many people who watch or listen to this know somebody who does something creative and tries to make a little bit of money off of that something creative. We call it a side hustle nowadays. This podcast is a side hustle. For many people, reselling was a side hustle. But what I can tell you is that through this podcast and through just sneakers in general, I have seen so many people who have taken a creative idea and actually put it out into the world. I've talked in this podcast a couple of times about Crucial Vision and how I've purchased a couple of things from them and how much I love the support that they give back to this show. That's one of the great things about supporting a creator, supporting somebody who is local. Maybe instead of supporting somebody that's online, go down to a local store, buy a pair of shoes from them, or make a friendship with somebody who works at some of these stores. Make a connection with somebody local, somebody independent. And I think by doing so, again, we will get down to the grassroots of sneakers. We'll forget about the large global problems of shoes and the large global problems of whether they're going to be available, and we'll actually be supporting somebody who is in this industry with us, somebody who is willing to put themselves out there, somebody who is creative, and somebody who has a dream. And whether that's by following this show or following another podcast or going down to a local store or going to somebody's Etsy shop, all you have to do is make one click and one purchase, and that could be the difference between somebody's year and somebody having a bad day. And so I think that it's always a good thing to think about somebody else for a change. And that's why I think this one is super important. And I'm going to try to continue to do that in 2024 the same way that I did it in 2023. I talked about connection when it came to supporting independent creators, and I think that connection is super important in the sneaker community. Many people who listen to this podcast listen to it because they feel a connection with me. And I think by extension, feel a connection with the people who also listen to the podcast or watch these videos. I can't tell you how many people in 2023 reached out to me to let me know that something that I said over the course of the time that they had been listening really resonated with them. It connected with them. And one of the things that I tried to do as a creator is try to make myself accessible, to try to be transparent, to try to connect with as many people as possible. That's why I do this. A lot of people may think that I do it for money. Hell, I don't do it for money. I don't make any money off of this. I lose money off of this. But the connection that I get, to me, is worth it. I always said when I started podcasting that if I reached just one person, it would be enough. And over the course of 2023, so many people reached out. I've become legitimate friends and talk almost daily with a group of people who listen to this podcast on Instagram. That to me is awesome. And I think you can do that too. You can go out and connect with a sneaker person that you don't know. It doesn't have to necessarily be in person. It could be an account that you follow. It could be following an account that you haven't followed before. One of the great things that Sneak This Podcast does is they share a lot of people's posts who tag them. And one thing that I think is not happening often enough is people are not following those accounts. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort to just hit follow on that account. Many times, just sharing something takes half a second. But by doing so, you give that person some validation and you make a connection with them. That's one of the best things about this. Connect with fellow sneaker lovers. Find common ground with somebody else who's into sneakers. We don't always have to like the same shoes. We don't always have to have the same collection. We don't always have to be rep or retail. There's love to be spread everywhere. And I think in 2024, it's extremely important that we make just one additional connection to what we already have. That will make the sneaker community grow larger. And by extension, it will make our community as humans much larger around the world. This next one is also related to making connections, but it's something that I have done in 2023 and want to continue to do in 2024, but I want to do more of it. And that is buying sneakers for people who are not sneaker people. What do I mean by that? A lot of people at Christmas time reached out to me this past year to say, look, I want to get something for my kids, but I don't know how. These are not sneaker people. They're not tuned into the sneaker market. They don't understand how all of this works. And they also don't want to pay hundreds of dollars for something that is just going to be given to their kid who's going to wear it. So a friend of mine asked me to get him a pair of the Phillies SB Dunks. I happen to have a pair of them, and I have the ability to get them for people. And these people who I'm getting them for don't care about whether they're authentic. Their kid cares about, this is a shoe that I have seen and I just want to wear it. And so I'm able to do that for people. And I was able to make a couple of people's Christmases this year, and it really made my year. It always brings me joy to give gifts and to be able to use the resources that I have collected in sneakers and to be able to provide gifts of that to other people to make them happy. That has been tremendously helpful in my mental health, and it has just given me a lot of gratitude. And I think it'd be awesome for everybody who's into sneakers, especially somebody who buys so many of them, buy a pair for somebody else. Your significant other, your brother, your sister, your friend, or just a random stranger. Buy a pair and give them to charity. To me, spreading the sneaker love is extremely important. And we've talked in past episodes about the fact that we, the people who are doing sneakers now, are holding up the culture. But what's the future going to look like? Well, if you buy sneakers for people who are not sneaker people, and especially for young people, it's going to continue the legacy of sneakers. And you're going to feel a sense of gratitude from it. And again, spreading sneaker love is what this podcast is all about. The fifth resolution that I want to talk about is actually kind of something that maybe will shake the core of people who are listening or watching. And this resolution is to buy a new silhouette. Many people in sneakers are creatures of habit. I understand it completely. We want to buy the things that we like. A lot of people like Jordans and Dunks and Yeezys, and many people, if you look at their collections, and I'm guilty of this too, we have many of the same silhouettes in our collection. We wear a lot of the same stuff. And you should always wear what you like, of course. But I think it's always great to get out of these ruts. And I think a great way of doing that is to take a flyer on a silhouette that you have never owned. And I did that this past year with the New Balance 9060, and it was amazing. I loved it. And I can't wait to cop more. The thing is as you get more and more into this and you realize just how many options we have, you have the ability to try new things. And I think it's important for people to extend their mental capacity for sneakers by trying something new. You may not like it. Go buy a Samba, go buy a 9060, go buy a Saucony Grid. I don't care what it is. Try something new because it's going to expand your horizons and by extension is going to expand your love for this game. Because what we're realizing and what we're seeing all over the place is that these creators are coming in and they are putting their creative minds onto silhouettes that weren't seen as part of sneaker culture. I talked about J-Tips last year. That's going to just continue. The Kayanos, maybe they look like running shoes. It's just going to continue. So you know what? In 2024, take a flyer on a new silhouette. You will not regret it. And this last one is something that I think is extremely important. And it's not just for sneaker culture. It could be applied to just about anything. I've talked about it before, but I think there is no better time to implement this than right now. And it is at some point, take an extended step away from sneakers. Sneakers are awesome. Do not get me wrong. I love the sneaker community. I love collecting. I love wearing. I love hyping things up in my mind. But there is so much more to life than just sneakers. And I think we are conditioned to think that it is not that way. Families, friends, activities, other hobbies. There's so many things that we could get ourselves into that can give us even more joy than sneakers. And maybe everybody doesn't have those avenues, and I certainly understand that. But if you're somebody who has so many ways in which you can be happy in this world, take a little bit of time away from sneakers and dedicate yourself to one of these other avenues. Take up a new hobby, learn something new. In 2023, I started to learn photography, and now I'm going to take that to another level in 2024. Hoping to be able to give the gift of my photographs to people, to be able to capture moments so that when my son is older, he has physical photos to go through. That's what I'm vowing to do when I step away. Take a step away from sneaker social media, take a step away from this podcast, take a step away from wearing heat all the time and posting about it. Just live life and live it in ways that do not involve sneakers. Trust me, it's going to enhance your love of sneakers and it is going to enhance your ability to enjoy them when you come back. You won't get burned out. And I think, honestly, if you combine all of these together, it's going to make for a very fruitful year for you in sneakers because you're going to be more grounded. We're going to think about the larger picture. We're going to think a little bit less about what we have and maybe think about how we can give back, how we can connect, and how we can love even more. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, the world needs a lot more of it in spades. But before we get to the end, the release of the week. Release of the week, where I like to highlight a shoe that has caught my eye. It's not always hype, as you know. It sometimes is, but mostly it's just a shoe that I want you to know about. So, one of my sneaker resolutions was that I wanted you to look into a new silhouette, and I think that this is the perfect time. It is the end collaboration of the Adidas Centennial 85 Low. This thing looks very, very similar to a Forum Low. It looks very similar to a lot of skate shoes. It's got that aged look, which I understand is getting a little bit old, but I'm going to tell you what, it looks fire. It just looks like something that can go with a lot of outfits. It looks like something that's vintage. It looks like they've put care into the collaboration. That's one thing I always want. The story, the quality, the care, I want it all to matter to these sneaker companies. They're not just phoning it in. And I think that this one actually fits the bill. It releases on January 12th. Right now, the draw is open on End's website. I believe it's $160. It's a nice looking shoe. You're going to wear it with a lot of different things. Even if you're not going to buy it, go take a look at it. This could be your opportunity to get a new silhouette for the calendar year 2024. So what are your sneaker resolutions for this year? Are you into the ones that I gave, or are there some that you could possibly think of in addition to what I have named? If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to comment down below that you have subscribed and let me know what your sneaker resolution is. But if you want to let me know what your sneaker resolution is, connect with the show. Instagram, @FireFootwearPod is the handle. On TikTok, @FireFootwearPod. If you're a Facebook user, Fire Footwear, a sneaker podcast is what you would search. If you're an audio listener and you want to watch the videos of this podcast, Fire Footwear, a sneaker podcast on YouTube is what you would search. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And of course, if you want to support the Matty Ice Media Network, mattyicemedia.com for all of the other podcasts under our umbrella. I hope this finds you well. I hope this finds you safe. And I will talk to you next time. This is Fire Footwear. The opinions and viewpoints expressed on Fire Footwear are those of Matt Frates and his guest, and not necessarily those of the Matty Ice Media Network. Fire Footwear is exclusively owned by Matt Frates and is brought to you by the Matty Ice Media Network.